Super excited. Obviously, tomorrow, as coaches, it's one of those. I always talk about people. I used to say it to our seniors, right? It's the first day of last, right? So it's the first day of winter conditioning. It's the first day of your last spring ball. But the way that we live college football now, every year is probably a new year created independently. So we started this season last January in this exact meeting room on the Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. That's what we always kind of start in this calendar year that we go forward. We got through winter conditioning, 8 weeks of that. We got through spring ball, 15 practices of that. Then we went through a 4-week discretionary week. Then we go to 8 weeks of summer conditioning that our guys wrapped up a week ago today. They had a discretionary week at home, and then tomorrow starts our first day. I kind of elected you can have a different start date. You get X number of practices. So a year ago, we kind of formatted this routine that we're going to live again this year. So we'll hit the ground running tomorrow, literally at 7:30 tomorrow morning. We'll start in here and have meetings all throughout the morning. Have a little bit of break in the afternoon. They'll do a little bit of lifting, but our first practice will be tomorrow night under the lights. Because of the class conflicts here at Illinois, the first 8 practices, so basically these 2 this week as well as all of next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, will be evening practice, so we don't have any class conflicts. And then we'll start our first scrimmage a week from Saturday, that first scrimmage, and then the second scrimmage. Those scrimmages are very purposeful. One is at 11 o'clock, which will be the time that we'll start our game against Duke, and the other will be at 6:30, which will be our start time against Western Illinois. So we'll get 2 scrimmages that kind of teach our guys how to prepare. The best dress rehearsal for a game is our scrimmages, so we'll be very intent in that. The reason I like the evening practice to start with, we'll kind of ease into the weather at this time of year, but also be able to play and perform under the lights at night, so we get our night practices in. On the front end, we'll sprinkle a couple in as we get closer to game day as well, because 2 of our first 4 are for sure evening games. So as far as practices, I know Bret has been on me, and I'll announce it because I know, Bob, you're going to ask me the question. We'll let you guys in starting, I believe, probably I think around 7:30 tomorrow night and Saturday night if you want to join us, and we'll open up the first 6 periods. So the first half hour of practice is a lot of individual time, a lot of individual prep. The first 2 practices are spiders only, so we'll be in shoulder prep, basically spiders and helmets. So it'll be a good practice, good spirit, good energy, but it's the first 2, and then we'll take a break on Sunday and then start a week that will, crazy as it sounds, the first full week of practices will be our most intense work week on the entire year, right? During the season, you really get, for us, we always review, put the bed to rest on Sunday night, and then we take Mondays off. We practice Tuesday, Wednesday, have a little lighter practice on Thursday, and a walkthrough on Friday, and you play the games on Saturday. So to have a full week next week in front of us is a tremendous challenge, so we got to be really smart about that. We'll have a couple days. August 12th, we'll do a media day with our entire media, and then on the next day, on the 13th, we'll actually have Big Ten Network here, so you guys will get first exposure to our guys. That'll be after our first scrimmage, and a lot of good stuff to go through at that point. As far as injury-wise, literally, there's 2 or 3 guys that'll be a little bit restricted. One guy might get cleared tomorrow and be ready to go, but all of the guys that didn't participate in the spring are all cleared to go now, right? So everything from Caden Fagan on offense to Miles Scott, Xavier Scott on defense, and everybody else, all those guys are 100% cleared, have been with us really the last half of the summer, July on. So super excited. The only guy that could be restricted for us, it looks like the entire season, would be Grant Smith, an incoming true freshman tight end that unfortunately has got some medical issues that are going to be able to be taken care of. It's just going to prohibit him from being with us. As far as he's with us, he had the summer with us, and unfortunately got an injury that is going to keep him out of this fall. So really excited about that, to have 116 players enter fall camp this coming week, and we have to be down to about 110 when we start our first game against Western Illinois. So until then, we'll be working through that and kind of figuring out, and a little bit of the roster on that final 110 is going to be depending on how things happen this fall. So it's a little bit of a unique time in college football to make that happen, but one that's very exciting. Super excited. I've been with our staff here since we got back from Vegas last week, and really just at this point in my career, right, every year you have a new staff, a new way of doing things. Didn't have any really transition other than one position on the offense-defense side of my full-time coaches, but have a lot of new additions around them. Have had some transition in the support staff roles, both in the medical department, strength conditioning, nutrition, all the people that touch us on a daily basis. So we really have had a really good, productive week and a half here, but really excited to get tomorrow and see where this thing goes. So with that, I'll open up for questions. I'm sure you guys got a lot of questions about some details and big picture items.
Right, for clarity, how many do you have in camp with you, and trimming it down, is that a gradual process or a one-day process?
What I just said a minute ago, 116 is what we're in camp at. 120 is what has normally been here since we're at 115, I believe, my first year before I got here. But in my entire coaching career, I've always had 120. I think our first year we might have had 115 because that's just what Illinois had been down to 110. I'd always believed in the 120 number, so we got it up. And then in reality, I was going to have 120, and then after spring ball, I thought I was going to have to get to 105, so that's why I had some conversations with moved some guys on, and then literally like 2 weeks later they said, Rutro, we might be able to add more guys. So good or not good, and obviously some guys got some opportunities, but super excited about these 116. They've been with us all summer and have put everything forward. Yeah, the number as it stands, it's not a hard number, but it'll be somewhere in the 110 range.
You added more depth on the line of scrimmage in the spring. Carter Hewitt, Tyler McMillan, Nathan Knappich.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind that, and what did those guys bring?
Yeah, I think to be honest, Jeremy, like you learn from your past, right? And I go back to the transition from 22 to 23, and I really thought we were thin in both the fronts. It's a different world, right? Then I was trying to acquire some players, but we didn't have the resources to necessarily do that, and that's one of the big changes that have come around here is our ability to be in some fights that we've never been in before. So I really thought coming out of spring, I wanted to add a couple more players on both sides, and fortunate found some really good opportunities. And Carter Hewitt looks incredible. Nathan Knappich, obviously we had Aiden here. He gave us our 5th set of brothers, so now we got 5 sets of brothers on this football team, which is crazy, but really excited to see those guys. We've seen them around this summer. We were able to do some things minimally with them, but I know Tank and his crew have been very impressed with the new additions since June, in addition to I think we had 9 other high school players join us. Super excited to get those guys with us, and I'm probably more excited for the first 2 practices just to kind of see the guys I haven't seen. I think I've kind of labeled it, these first 8 practices. I think when we finish next Saturday's scrimmage, I think I really kind of want to have a good feel on who we feel like our travel, 74 to 80 guys. Offensive line, for instance, like everybody wants to talk about the 5 starters at return, but I really feel like you need 8 guys, right? So you take the 5 starters, you have a swing guard, swing tackle, and a center, and sometimes those are shared by mutual people, but that, and then I think in our defensive front, we're a 5 down front or a 3 down front with 2 outside overhang belt players. Like you really have 5 outside backers and really 5 defensive ends and 3 defensive tackles that make up the core of what your team is, and really to see who those guys are, it should be fun.
Outside the program, there's a spotlight on the program more than ever before because of the season last year and high expectations. How do you address that inside the program with the guys? Is it just a matter of going about your business day to day, or do you talk about it?
I think and I'm sure you guys, followed some of the stuff we said in Vegas, and I always say, like, everybody's talking about the expectations, and just like you earned 10 wins last year, you earn expectations, right? And there's no doubt in my mind that there was a lot of work that went into last year, but just making cut-ups and edits for this coming fall camp and what I try to teach our guys. I just go back to, we were a 10-win team that had to kick a field goal with 2 seconds from 36 yards to beat a Purdue team that won 1 game all year, right? That field goal that we converted put us in a tie that allowed us to go to overtime where we won it, right? But the difference in this league is so small, like anybody can get anybody on any given Saturday, and I think that message right there, that I'm sure shocked some of the people that are sitting in this room, right? Like it should slap our guys in the face tomorrow as well. Like, listen, a team that won 1 game and transitioned their whole staff, we had to kick a third, which isn't a chip shot field goal, right? And to hit that field goal to give us a chance to win that game, to put us on the path that really gave us, the 10 wins. I'm not oblivious to the fact that we had to have a call timeout, not by us, by the other sideline, to give us a chance to win the Rutgers game, right? So there's a lot. Now, we did a lot of really good things too. We won a convincing game against the defending national champs at our home stadium in front of a great crowd, which was one of the best environments I've ever been in college football, regardless of where I've been. So there's a lot of things that were good last year, but we have to remember how quick those things could have changed in a different direction if we hadn't worked to get to where we are. So I know the expectation, the spotlight is new for our players. It's new for people in this room as well as our fan base, which is awesome. I would like this to become more of the norm instead of the exception.
Having so many experienced pieces back and the rules of being able to interact with your guys in the summer, does that expedite what you guys are going to be able to do in preseason camp, or does that not change the way you do it?
I think Tank, coming out of it, I've been here 5 years with Tank. Tank's been with me previously before here, but I could hear the excitement come through the phone every time I talk to Tank. So, after the 1st of July, we as coaches kind of transition out. I give them a couple weeks to get on their own, but I talk to Tank on a daily basis, and wherever I was at, when I called Tank, you could just hear his voice coming through the phone about how excited he was about what we did. Even when there was a dip, like the reaction of our guys to make it happen back the other way has been really good. So, yeah, I'm excited. A lot of really good players. I can't, forget, we have a lot of good players that return. But as a coach, you just kind of always are excited to not that they're possessions, but you love to work with new people, right? New toys, new opportunities, and see what they are, right? And to see some of those guys that have been new, some of the guys that were just with us in June, or I'm sorry, in the spring only, and then just have so many return. I'm going to tell you, I know the Big Ten Network was down with Gabe Ackus yesterday, doing a filming of a show. He's going to be part of the Journey in the fall. Gabe looks better than I've ever seen him look, right? And is wired in as good as I've ever seen him look. Xavier Scott, he just, continues to be impressive to me, and all the other things that I've already known, right? Like Miles Scott, Mac Rossetich. I swear, whatever time I walk through his building, Mac Rossetich is in the weight room, right? Doing something, right? He could be, doing some toe raises, some chin-ups, some pull-ups, working on his hairdo, right? He's just always in this building, right? I'm super excited to see the growth of Luke Altmaier in other ways other than I've already seen, right? I know he's been very intentional in what he's doing. Ho Hum, Colin Dixon, Hank Beatty, all these guys getting national awards and recognitions. A lot to be excited about, but I'm excited for tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning to get a chance to meet with my team. That's really it.
Collectively with Aaron and Barry, you've got maybe more continuity with your coordinators
Yeah.
than any from the Big Ten. Just what impact do you see on your program with those guys that haven't been with you for?
Well, I literally had a staff meeting this morning. We had a punt meeting, or a field goal meeting at 8:30, had a punt meeting at 9:15, and we had a staff meeting at 10:30, and went through a lot of stuff, and I kept Aaron and Barry and Dish, and those guys have been coordinators for me the last 3 years, right? But Aaron I've known since he's been, a little guy in a Immokalee practice field. He was a lot littler back then. And then, Barry Lundy I've met coming into my office. He's a offensive coordinator at Bentonville High School, and now he's an offensive coordinator, returning one of the best production offenses in college football, right? So I've been with those guys so long. It really gives me assurance. There's so many new things I got to do on my agenda that I have never been there in college football, from revenue share to NIL goes to being ahead of the game for the 27 recruiting class, to maintaining the 26 recruiting class. It's just, to have coordinators around me that have been there, seen there, done that, it's absolutely awesome. It's a very good calming, but also I really challenge those guys. I did things this fall in the last 10 days that both of them are like, Coach, I appreciate it. We've never seen this, right? And just to keep the newness in front of them and keep challenging them is really good.
What do you think that means for your players?
It's probably a good question for them. I hate to speak for them, but I do think players gravitate to confidence, and I think those guys are really, Xavier, I always pull clips from Media Day, and Xavier got asked a question about, Coach Henry last year versus the first year, and he talked about, loving to be in an environment with Coach Henry because he was one of the guys that would, speak openly about what he could do better and how he could do it, and I think our players reflect the confidence of our coaches and vice versa. I think our players' confidence give our coaches the ability to do certain things. So super excited to see how it all kind of works out over the next 24 practices and see where we can go.
With this group, you have to do less telling them not to pay attention to outside noise. I'm wondering, you see that self-motivation, they're not buying it and all that, they're doing what you want to do.
Do I see that?
You see that with these guys.
I'm really excited to get to tomorrow, right? Because I wasn't around them in July, right? I would get a really good pulse. Like we'll have guys, in this room. I invite people up to come and speak. I've done something every fall that's always been a little bit different, but I got a couple NFL veteran assistant coaches who I think the world of are coming in and spending a couple days with us. And one's an O-line coach, one's a running back coach that have won at the highest levels. But I want them to come in and observe my staff, but also observe our players, right? Having some people from different walks of life that'll talk to our group. I have 42 support staff members and coaches that I'm going to call on some of those guys individually. And so it's one thing what I believe and I see, but I don't know everything, right? And I can't feel everything. So I'm super excited. I do like we have a leadership council that we voted. It has 15 players on it. That those people really have been impressive to me about what they say, how they say it, what they're doing. So I'm excited to see it, but I really don't know the answer to that yet.
Special teams question
Yeah.
for you. How do you balance kick return in terms of when to actually return it versus taking it to 25? And then secondly, Canary handled a decent bit of that last year.
Yeah.
So who would be in the mix there?
Yeah, great question. I think in the punt return, obviously Hank has been. It'd be hard to say that he can pop out of that, but Mac Resetich, if you remember, opened the opening season last year. So to have those guys there, and then we have a couple new guys that have been that in the past. But kick return really is an open slate. I think there's some of the young guys that were behind Canary last year that really got a lot of good reps. Plus, there's new guys coming to the building. So don't know the answer and not ditching the question. Honestly, I don't know it. As far as what we do, I think the one time that I, as a head coach, I always say there's very few times where you can sit in front of the room and you can have a unanimous vote by your offensive and defensive coaches, but specifically your play callers and your coordinators. And when I just asked the question, like if you could just take the ball every time on a 25-yard line and say that's what it is, like how many people would take that? And everybody raised their hand, right? Like the defense coaches didn't want them to start on the 30, and the offense coaches don't want to start on the 20, they want to start on the 25. But, I go back to, I've had this conversation my whole coaching career. The rules have changed a little bit, but I go back to 2010, and I was a head coach of Wisconsin. We're playing Ohio State, and we really just felt good about the scheme that we had. And we were and a lot of times back then, I used to decide if I want to take the ball or kick the ball if we won the coin toss. And in that one, we wanted to win the coin toss and take the ball because we just felt really good about that. And that ended up being a 98-yard touchdown return that we were up by 3 scores at the end of the first quarter against the number 1 team in the country. And I think a lot of that was derived off of a huge kickoff return. So a kickoff return that if you can, I go back to 3 years ago, we had a big opening return almost the 50-yard line. Chase hit an outside zone to the right, and then we hit a wheel route, and we were in the end zone in 3 plays, one special teams and 2 offensive plays. Those things can change momentums in the game. But on the flip side of it, if you get hit in the head as a kick return unit and you start the ball inside a 20-yard line, your chances of scoring, literally are 1 in 30, and those aren't numbers that I want to play with, right? So there's a delicate balance to find that answer, and the answer is game plan.
Kind of an oddball question, but Coach Henry has really used the defensive substitution rules to his advantage to try to slow offenses down and whatnot. How would that affect the defense if they do try to speed that up and change the rule or change the emphasis on substitution?
Yeah, it's not an oddball question, and it's really kind of a question that as much as you think that makes sense, it really doesn't, right? Like when an offensive team subs, we have the ability to sub in after them. Some people don't, right? And that's their discretion. But most of the time when an offense subs, us at Illinois, that's my choice, right? We will sub as well, right? Like very seldom will you see the offense sub and we don't sub I don't care when it takes place. What teams don't realize is, so I purposely asked this question when I first became a head coach, and pace of play obviously was an issue. They used to say if a team subs 20 seconds or lower, right, like you should have an understanding that the offense, when they do that, the defense may may or may not sub in time for you, you're going to be affected by the play caller on offense. Now they say that number is 25, right? If you're referring to what happened in the bowl game, those guys were subbing under 20 seconds. Sometimes it was under 18, and that's just that's just stealing, right? Like you can't run a big man out and bring him back and not either they're going to have to take a penalty or they're going to have to take a timeout, right? So I think that's kind of the buzz around what you're asking, right? But no, we're not trying to take advantage. We're just doing what you should do, right? And we've been doing it for a long time. It just got highlighted in the bowl game because all the other business going around it. But I don't. It's the SEC put that out, which I thought was fun to ask. But in our conference, there hasn't even been a discussion about it. That's just something that they felt they had to get off their chest.
You guys have their seasons cut short last year, Caden and
What's that?
Cole. You had a few guys have their seasons cut short,
Yeah.
maybe not play. Caden, Cole, and Dylan. How excited are you just to see them?
Yeah,
back in it?
Caden especially, Cole, same thing. Cole's been kind of nobody else really got to see him except for us, so that one's been a slow build, and I'm just super excited he's been cleared and got back a little bit in the spring, but it wasn't quite there, right? But Caden Fagan especially, he was really just fixing, I thought, to really do something at a high level and kind of a freakish thing, and Caden looks the way he looks, right? So he's been looking that way, and all through spring, I would see him back there taking steps, and then when we came back in June, I had a feeling he was going to look pretty good. He got cleared, and I called his mom, and I literally just said, "Hey, what's up?" Right? And she started giggling. She goes, "He's excited." I said, "I can tell," right? And he ran over 20 miles an hour. So to put things in perspective, on this roster, we had, I believe, 46 guys run over 20 miles an hour, which normally we've maybe been somewhere in the 25 to 30 range. And some of these guys that are running 20 miles an hour, Gabe Ackus, these guys that are weighing 260, 270 pounds, and that's just something we've never seen before, especially with the volume of numbers that we're dealing with. So, yeah, Caden is another one, like for him to be the size he is, he's not just cleared, he's ready to roll, right? So him and Aiden and Khalil Valentine, those three guys, I think have given us something in that running back room I've never had here at Illinois. I've had it in my past, but nothing like we've got now.